Hey everyone, welcome back to the channel. Today's story begins on a quiet morning inside a mansion so large it echoed even when no one was speaking. The kind of place where wealth showed in every detail: polished marble floors, tall glass windows, and walls lined with art that cost more than most people's homes. Yet despite all that luxury, there was a heaviness in the air, a silence that felt lonely rather than peaceful. This was the home of Adrian Blackwell, a self-made millionaire who had everything money could buy, except the one thing he wanted most: a complete family. Adrian had lost his wife, Claire, during childbirth. The doctors had done everything they could, but complications came suddenly. And by the time Adrian arrived at the hospital, holding his newborn son in his arms, Claire was already gone. From that day on, the mansion felt colder. Adrian tried to fill the emptiness with work, meetings, and travel, but nothing could erase the quiet pain that lived in his chest. His son, Leo, was the only light left in his world. A tiny baby with wide, curious eyes and a soft cry that could melt even the hardest heart. Adrian loved him deeply, but he didn't know how to be both a grieving husband and a present father. He hired the best nannies money could find, but none stayed long. Some said the house felt sad. Others said the baby cried too much. Eventually, Adrian gave up on agencies and hired a quiet young maid named Alina to help around the house. Alina wasn't what people expected in a millionaire's mansion. She wore simple clothes, spoke gently, and moved as if she didn't want to disturb anyone. She had lost her own younger brother years ago and understood grief in a way words couldn't explain. She didn't try to replace anyone. She simply did her job with care and kindness. For weeks, Alina cleaned rooms, folded laundry, and cooked meals while keeping her distance from the baby. She noticed how Leo often cried even when everything seemed fine, and how Adrian would stand frozen in the doorway, unsure whether to step in or step away. The staff whispered that the baby was restless, that maybe he sensed the sadness in the house. One afternoon, everything changed. Adrian had just returned early from work. A deal had fallen through, and for once, he didn't want to bury himself in paperwork. As he walked through the hallway, he heard Leo crying, louder than usual. Not the normal hungry cry or sleepy cry, but a sharp, emotional sound that made Adrian's heart race. He followed the sound and stopped when he reached the nursery door. Inside, Alina stood near the crib. She hadn't touched the baby yet. She was simply standing there, watching him with a soft, almost painful expression. The moment Leo saw her clearly, his cries grew louder. His tiny face turned red, his hands reaching out, his whole body trembling. Adrian's first thought was panic. He rushed into the room and said sharply, "What did you do?" Alina turned around, startled. "Sir, I didn't touch him. I just came in to clean, and he started crying like this." Adrian moved closer to the crib, trying to calm his son. "It's okay, Leo, Daddy's here," he whispered, lifting him gently. But the crying didn't stop. In fact, it grew worse. Leo's eyes were locked on Alina, his little hands still reaching in her direction. That's when something unexpected happened. Leo suddenly quieted for a split second, his lips trembling. Then, in a tiny, broken voice that barely sounded real, he said his very first word, "Mama." The room froze. Adrian felt like the air had been knocked out of his lungs. His arms went weak, and he almost dropped the baby. Alina's eyes widened, her hand flying to her mouth. No one spoke. No one moved. Leo looked at Alina again and repeated it, clearer this time, his voice cracking with emotion. "Mama, don't go." The words shattered everything. Adrian sank into the chair beside the crib, holding his son close as tears streamed down his face. His strong, confident image disappeared in that moment. He wasn't a millionaire. He wasn't a powerful businessman. He was just a broken man, holding a child who missed a mother he would never truly remember. Alina felt her knees shake. "Sir, I swear, I don't understand," she whispered. "I'm not trying to." Adrian raised his hand gently, stopping her. His voice came out hoarse. "It's not your fault." Leo continued to cry softly, his face pressed against Adrian's chest, his tiny fingers clutching the fabric of Alina's uniform as if afraid she might disappear. That was the moment Adrian realized something painful and beautiful at the same time. His son wasn't seeing Alina as she was. He was feeling something familiar in her presence: warmth, gentleness, safety, something he associated with the word mama, even if he didn't fully understand it. Adrian looked at Alina through blurry eyes. Can you hold him?" he asked quietly. Alina hesitated. She had never been asked to do that before. Slowly, carefully, she reached out and took Leo into her arms. The moment she held him, his crying stopped. He rested his head against her shoulder, sighing softly, as if he had finally found peace. The room filled with silence again, but this time, it wasn't empty. It was heavy with emotion. From that day on, everything changed in the mansion. Adrian asked Alina to spend more time with Leo, not as a replacement, not as a mother, but as someone who brought comfort. Alina agreed, though she made it clear she would never try to take a place that wasn't hers. She sang softly to Leo, told him gentle stories, and held him when the nights felt too long. Leo grew calmer. He laughed more. The house felt warmer. But the words "Mama, don't go" stayed with Adrian. They echoed in his mind during meetings, late nights, and lonely mornings. He realized that while he had been trying to protect himself from pain, his son had been silently grieving too. One evening, Adrian sat alone in the nursery after Leo had fallen asleep. Alina was about to leave the room when Adrian spoke. "Alina," he said softly, "do you know why his first word broke my heart?" She shook her head. "Because it reminded me of everything he lost before he could even understand it," Adrian continued, "and everything I've been too afraid to face." Alina listened quietly. "I don't need you to be his mother," Adrian said, "but I need you to keep being what you are to him. A safe place." Tears filled Elena's eyes. "I will, sir, I promise." As months passed, Leo grew stronger, healthier, happier. He still said mama sometimes, especially when he was tired or scared. Each time, Adrian felt a sting in his chest, but it hurt a little less. He learned that love didn't disappear with loss. It changed shape. The mansion no longer felt like a museum of wealth. It felt like a home. Adrian started coming back earlier from work. He learned how to hold Leo properly, how to feed him, how to soothe him when he cried. He stopped running from grief and started living alongside it. One night, as Adrian tucked Leo into bed, the baby reached up and touched his father's face. "Dada," Leo said softly. Adrian smiled through tears. "Yes, buddy. Dada's here." From across the room, Alina watched quietly, knowing she had played a small but meaningful role in healing a broken family. The baby's first word had broken everyone's heart, but it had also opened it. And sometimes, that's how healing begins.